Good evening. I'd like to call to order the August 17, 2021 school board meeting. This evening, our invocation and pledge of allegiance will be led by Vice Chair Pennock.
Good afternoon. Ms. Krause, thank you for the book. I actually found a quote in it that I think is very pertinent to right now. I hope that you will have a wonderful year, that you'll dream dangerously and outrageously, that you'll make something that didn't exist before you made it, and that you will be loved and that you will be liked, and that you will have people to love and to like in return. And most importantly, because I think there should be more kindness and more wisdom in the world right now, that you will, when you need to be wise, and that you will always be kind. From Neil Gaiman. So if you please stand and cite the pledge with me, please.
Thank you, Amy. Let the record reflect that all 5 school board members, superintendent, and school board attorney are present. As this meeting commences, please be advised that it is the expectation that every person present or who enters this assembly will conduct themselves with civility, courtesy, and restraint. This meeting will be conducted pursuant to the district policies and procedures as they relate to order and decorum. Disruptive behavior and actions are counterproductive to the advancement of pertinent district business. Therefore, each individual is warned that failure to conduct oneself with civility and propriety may result in removal. We thank you in advance for everyone's adherence and cooperation. Madam Clerk, do you have any acknowledgement forms?
I do not.
Thank you. Superintendent, do you have any agenda modifications?
Chairman, the addendum for good cause is marked on our agenda by a green flag named addendum item, and the only modification I have is to pull 6CC 1 through 3.
Thank you. Board members, and I'll call you in roll call order. Member Calderon? Thank you. Member Sanchez?
No modifications, thank you.
Thank you. Member Krause?
No modifications.
Vice Chair Pennock?
No modifications.
Thank you, and I have no modifications. Member Calderon, make sure your microphone is on. Can you hear?
Can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Yep, now can you hear me?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I need a motion, please, to approve the agenda outline.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Superintendent, presentations, recognitions?
Yes, we have our Veteran of the Month presentation. Is it up?
Good evening, Board Chair Amen, board members, and Ms. Beeman. It is with great honor that I introduce Anthony Wilson II as this month's SCPS Veteran of the Month. Anthony has a family connection to service and was born in Bremerhaven, Germany, where his dad was stationed. His dad, Anthony Wilson Sr., spent 30 years in the Army serving in Vietnam, Operation Desert Storm and Desert Shield. When Anthony was 2, his family moved back to the States. He spent most of his life in Florida and is an SCPS alumni, attending Hamilton Elementary, Sanford Middle, and graduating from Seminole High School. Anthony has an older sister who lives in Mississippi and is joined here tonight by his mother, Rosie D. Wilson, his grandmother, Miss Hudson, his girlfriend, Kayla Capoletti, and his SCPS Facility Services family. For the record, Rosie is a retired Seminole County Public Schools teacher. After graduating in 2002, Anthony worked at Highlands Elementary as a custodian. In 2007, he joined the Army National Guard. He attended infantry basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia, and was stationed in Eustis, Florida as a member of Company D, 2nd Battalion, 124th Infantry Regiment. While in the Guard, Anthony was deployed in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom and did 2 tours in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. During one of his tours, Anthony had the privilege of meeting Brigadier General Andy Preston and was recognized for his accomplishments with the 240 Bravo. Additionally, he was selected to attend electronic warfare training and graduated second in his class in the Crew Duke system. In 2013, Anthony reclassed to a chemical specialist, and in 2016 completed his last tour in Africa. One of his most noteworthy experiences was the opportunity to work directly with a U.S. ambassador in Africa. In 2017, Anthony came back to Seminole County Public Schools as a helper in the Facility Services Department and quickly worked his way into a mechanic position. His experience, dedication, leadership, and organization, and commitment to excellence makes him a stellar employee. In Anthony's spare time, he is an assistant coach for the Amateur Athletic Union, girls basketball coach, enjoys outdoor activities, watching anime, cooking for family and friends, playing video games, and wearing a fresh fit on Fridays. Anthony, thank you for your service. We appreciate you.
Good evening, Board and Superintendent. Tonight, I'd like to present our 2021 Joe Negri School Resource Deputy of the Year. Deputy Dave Attaway has served in the capacity of School Resource Deputy for 7 years. During that time, he has been assigned to Hagerty High School and has demonstrated a strong dedication to making a difference in the lives of the students attending there. Not only has Deputy Attaway completed the day-to-day responsibilities of his position, but he has also gone above his day-to-day performance expectations by coaching the girls' varsity weightlifting team. He has also built positive relationships with multiple student athletes on campus. During a recent visit on the campus, I observed a student enter Deputy Attaway's office looking for someone. Deputy Attaway struck up a conversation with her and asked her about trying out for the school's track team. After a brief conversation, the student left. Deputy Attaway informed me she was an outstanding runner, but she did not always make the best choices. It was clear to me that the moment that Deputy Attaway was trying to steer the student into doing something positive and constructive versus going down a different, more negative path. I have no doubt that this is just one instance of many where Deputy Attaway attempted to make an impact in bettering a student's future. We reached out to Hagerty High School Athletic Director Jay Getty, and he stated the following. After arriving on campus, David began embedding himself in the fabric of our school. Visibility during the school day and at night for our athletic events with security details provided a great interactive tool for him to forge positive encounters to build trust with both the students and the athletes. It is this trust that has created a safe environment for our facility, staff, and student body. As time progressed, his desire to incorporate himself into the coaching fraternity at the school took flight 5 years ago with his head coach position for our girls' weightlifting program. Over those 5 years, our program has grown from just over 20 participants to over 80 participants. His ability to teach the base skill sets for the sport has propelled our female athletes to become healthy, confident, and extremely competitive in their sports, not just weightlifting. In the 5 years that he has worked with them, the team has won 2 Seminole Athletic Conference championships, 1 FHSAA district championship, produced 2 individual FHSAA state champions, and 3 top 5 team finishes at the FHSAA state finals. As a result of his efforts, Deputy Coach Attaway has been named the Seminole Athletic Conference Coach of the Year twice during his career, one of which is the 2020-2021 season. We are extremely proud of his efforts during the day and after the day. We are also excited that his team also proudly sports an overall grade point average of 3.709 on an unweighted scale. In the past, we have routinely hosted the SAC championships at Hagerty High School. Just as he's done in other areas, he has also pushed our athletic department to take on a larger role in the sport as well. In the last 3 years, we have hosted 3 FHSAA district championships and 2 HSAA Regional Championships. Our goal is to host the state finals with Deputy Coach Attaway's skill set. I'm confident we can pull that event off without a hitch. Haggerty High School Principal Robert Frasca, I hope I said it right, also had the following to say about Deputy Attaway. Deputy Attaway is not just a school resource officer at Haggerty High School. He has become part of the spirit and culture of the school. Deputy Attaway goes above and beyond by building strong relationships with students, staff. He has truly became a part of our team. As principal, I know we are extremely blessed to have him serving our school and community because he is truly a collaborative member of our team. Deputy Attaway has gone well beyond the day-to-day performance expectations of a school resource deputy, and he has done so with humility. In the years I have known Deputy Attaway, he has never wanted recognition for all the fantastic things he has done at Haggerty High School. He does it because he enjoys it and wants to better the lives of students. Due to the all above reasons, that's why he is our 2021 Joe Negri School Officer, Resource Officer of the Year.
Good evening, Chairman Allman, school board members, and Superintendent Beeman. I am pleased to introduce the newest member to the middle school leadership team, Mr. Peter Barbarino, assistant principal at Markham Woods Middle School. Mr. Barbarino graduated with a bachelor's degree from Indiana University and received a master's degree in educational leadership from the University of Central Florida. He started working for Seminole County Public Schools in August of 2013 as a paraprofessional at Markham Woods. He was later hired as an ESE support facilitation teacher at Teague Middle School and also served as an ESE teacher and civics teacher at Sanford Middle School. Most recently, he served as the Dean of Students at Indian Trails. Joining him this evening are his parents, Peter Barbarino Sr. and Martha Barbarino. He is also joined tonight by the principal of Markham Woods, Dr. Craig Johnson.
Good evening, school board members and Chairman Allman and Superintendent Beeman. This evening I have two individuals that I'd like to recognize that have been named as assistant principals. First up is the new assistant principal at Haggerty High School, Mr. Reginald Allen Miller, Jr. Reginald Miller was born in Columbia, South Carolina. He is a product of Suncoast High School, a Palm Beach County high school ranked 4th in the nation. Mr. Miller graduated from Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University with a Bachelor of Science in Political Science and Barry University with a Master of Science in Educational Leadership. Mr. Miller began his teaching career at the middle school level in Palm Beach County. His first administrative role began in Orange County Public Schools at Wekiva High as an administrative dean. In his most recent capacity, Mr. Miller served as the school administration manager at Lake Mary High School. Mr. Miller's passion is to provide opportunities for the students of Seminole County to cultivate seeds of sustainability in all fields of human endeavor. He is joined here tonight by his wife, Jennifer Miller. Come on up, Jennifer, and his current principal at Haggerty, Mr. Rob Frasca, and previous principal, Mickey Reynolds, Dr. Mickey Reynolds. Congratulations, Reggie. And next up, it gives me great pleasure to announce the new assistant principal at Lyman High School, Miss Faith Cotter. As an educator for 18 years, Ms. Cotter has held progressively responsible leadership positions in addition to her teaching and department chair duties. Working for SCPS for the past 8 years, Ms. Cotter was Lyman's 2020 Teacher of the Year, and most recently the SAM in charge of facilities, maintenance, security, and transportation. Ms. Cotter is a transformative servant leader who embodies and promotes a collaborative partnership with students, parents, teachers, staff, administrators, and community members. She holds a master's degree in educational leadership from Nova Southeastern University, a bachelor's degree in communication and science disorders from the University of South Florida, and a master's of divinity degree from Unity Worldwide Spiritual Institute. And we want to say congratulations to Ms. Cotter. And she's joined today by her new principal, Mr. Michael Hunter.
Good evening, board members. The new Assistant Superintendent of Operations is Chad Wilski. Chad is in his 22nd year with the district, and for the past 9 years, he served as the Director of Red Apple Dining and has served in the positions of Assistant Director and Coordinator. Chad received his bachelor's and master's degree from the University of Florida. He is also a veteran of the United States Air Force, serving during Operation Desert Storm.
Elementary, middle, high, focus on student achievement. Okay.
Board members, for the next item, for our focused on student achievement, we have our assistant superintendents presenting on the first week of school at each of the levels. Starting with Robin
All right.
Dellinger.
Thank you. So I thought I'd start by just giving you a little brief synopsis of the first day of school. You know, that's always a very exciting day. And of course, with 37 elementary schools, Dr. Cummings and I can't get to every single one, so our cabinet team members all fan out across the district so that every elementary school is visited, and that happened this year as well. On my visits on the first day, I was really amazed to see the kids in classrooms working, teachers interacting very positively, really smoothly, very smoothly. The major challenges on that day were probably everybody just finding the right classroom and making sure that they were there. Our elementary schools had everybody on deck deployed to help our kindergartners and our first graders get to their classrooms, and that happened really quickly. I think the students and the teachers were very happy to be back in school with each other. Our Red Apple Dining provided breakfast and lunch, and from all reports, no bumps in the road, all very smoothly done. Our car lines seem to be longer this year. As a matter of fact, Monday of this week, I was at one of our schools, and when we were talking about the time it was taking for the cars to drop off in the morning, and the principal said, the assistant principal said, we've been counting, we have about 100 more cars dropping off than in the past. And I think that's what contributed maybe to our little bit of lateness getting people home on that first day of school, because we had so much traffic. Everyone reported so much traffic of kids being picked up. But everybody was home safe and sound. I checked my text by 5:24, so I know that happened, because we always wait for that report on the first day of school. So all in all, a great first day and an excellent first week. We meet and update with our principals frequently, and things seem to be going well. Thank you.
So board members, in addition to the elementary schools, I do supervise the VPK program and the Kids Zone program, so just wanted to give you an update. Currently, in our VPK program, we're in 43 classrooms with 51 classes because we do have half-day classes. We have a total enrollment of 796. That was as of Monday. We still have students that are being enrolled into the program, but things are going very well, and enrollment is up for VPK. For Kids Zone, we have a total of 965 students enrolled in the program at 35 of our elementary schools because we have some kids who go to the 21st century programs in the community. But 35 of our sites have active programs. We currently have a wait list of approximately 100 students in for both our middle school and our elementary school, and that's really due to shortages in staffing and really finding some qualified people to work in the program. So we continue to work on that and address those concerns. But overall, all of the programs are up and running. Things are going well. Great Start groups will not start until mid-September, but we are bringing those back on board. But all in all, our first week was very successful.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm here to give the middle school update. This year, I was joined by the new Assistant Superintendent of Operations, Chad Wilski, on the first day of school visits. We visited 8 of the middle schools, and Heidi Gooch visited the remaining 4, so that all 12 would be seen on the first day. We made sure that we stopped at all of the campus restaurants so that the Red Apple dining staffs had the chance to see Mr. Wilski during our visits. We began our visits at Oviedo, in the Oviedo area, at Childs Middle School with Dr. Ladani, and concluded at Teague Middle School with Dr. Collins. As you all may remember, both of those were 2 new principals last year who were hired during the shutdown. So it was exciting to see them on their first day with everyone in in-person learning. I was also extremely excited to visit our newest principal, Trish Harchaffee, at Indian Trails Middle School, and she was settling in very well. She seems like she's been there for a while. I visited the remaining 4 middle schools in Sanford and Lake Marion on the second day of school, and all of the campuses looked great and had the normal high energy of middle schools, and the middle school team seemed excited to reconnect with their peers and our 14,400 middle school kids who have shown up. So very excited to get the year going.
Thank you.
Well, I had the great pleasure of traveling around with Superintendent Beeman, and we got to travel to all of the high schools. We made it to every single one, although one of them was right as the school was departing, all the students were departing, but we had a great day. We had organized campuses. Everything just seemed so calm and just like it's been happening for a few years, even though we've had students on virtual for last school year, and coming back just seemed natural. Staffs were all enthusiastic. There was a ton of enrollments on day 1, and actually through last week in one school, as many as 90 enrollments last week. So it's been a lot of hard work put on by the staffs. A few highlights. We got to start our day over at Lyman High School, and we got to observe the new 1 minute of silence, and the staff was great. The students, everyone in the front office that we got to see observing the 1 minute of silence worked right with what the expectation was. We got to visit the new Career Innovation Center, the home of the automotive program, the new Academy of Building and Design, and just what a beautiful facility and what a great addition to that campus. We continued our day, and we got to see yoga classrooms in action on day 1. It was quiet, and they were on the floor and doing their exercises and working and learning as a part of that classroom. We got to see some social emotional learning lessons happening in some of our other classrooms on the 9th grade campus at Seminole High School. We got to see students in action at Crooms, and Brantley was enthusiastic. They welcomed us into the SGA classroom and cheered on our new superintendent, just very enthusiastic at the Brantley campus. And the other cool thing was hearing from our Hagerty administration. They said that at 6:50 in the morning, there was 250 kids standing outside the gates ready to come into school on the first day of school. And these were not students that were being bussed in. They were students that chose to show up at that time, and just very exciting for the students and staff to come back together and be one and be united back on the campuses again. So overall, a great day. Really enjoyed the visit.
Thank you.
Good evening. So I did visit 7 brick and mortar schools, and then I visited our virtual school, which is actually a physical building as well. We have, as of right now, we're rapidly approaching 1,500 full-time students, which is about a 250% increase over where we were before we had the opportunity to reopen the window for our families to provide one more chance at virtual education. At this point, we're looking at about 6,100, which this sounds more, so I'll explain in a minute, 6,100 part-time enrollments, and enrollment is one course. So that'll be the equivalent of about 871 additional students when you divide that number by 7. So that'll make the estimated enrollment of SCPS around 2,300 students or the equivalent thereof. We are currently working to stabilize some of the staffing, and we appreciate the patience of our students and our families as we go through all of that process. We want to make sure that we provide really high-quality teachers, and so we are working on getting all of that squared away. We are currently operating the second largest, it's not the first largest, the second largest franchise of Florida Virtual School at this point. The first largest is Hillsborough County. We are operating the second largest, and so we are up and running and pleased to be serving the students and families of Seminole County.
Along with the opportunity of visiting some of the elementary schools, our first day, I was at our center schools and our alternative programs. We had a slow start with our numbers, but they have arrived over the course of the last week, and the students are enthusiastic and happy to be back face-to-face and really meeting with our staff and other students at the schools. We had witnessed when we were walking through, and I was enjoying through the classrooms, social emotional learning, getting the students oriented as far as the classroom routines and expectations of the school, and also talking about protocols for students in particular in crisis, opportunities for them to be able to wind down and calm down when things aren't going so well for them. So it was a great start for the year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members and superintendent. We had a fabulous start to the school year. Monday, I started out my day at one of the elementary schools, got to experience the card line. It was very exciting to see the staff with their energy level really high and just welcoming all of our students and parents. From there, I got to visit some of the other schools, and I got to see lessons already. Our ESOL teachers were doing read-alouds. They were already working in the curriculum, which I was so impressed. Got to see also visit some of the dual language classrooms and did a lot of walkthroughs with the regular classrooms too, and every student was engaged. The students, the teachers were so excited to be back. From the ESOL side, our ESOL teachers, their energy level is really up there. They're excited to be back. They're excited to see our students back in the classroom. I am too. I got to visit some of the schools this week too. We just received our access scores, our results, which look really good too. So the teachers are right now exiting quite a large number of L's from the program because they have met the exiting criteria. So really a great start, just amazing work from everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Allman, board members, and Superintendent Beeman. I like what Minnie said, fabulous start. It's been a fabulous week. I think that's a great way to put it, Minnie. And, from the first day of our campus visits, seeing our teachers in action and seeing our staff in action and our students, it has been a beautiful thing. Transportation from our transportation team. And these numbers are based on just seating assignments on the bus. So they're just estimates. So in the morning time, we're averaging about 24,000 students in ridership. And in the afternoons, we're about 25,500 in ridership. And I think on a normal day, we're a little over the 30,000 mark on that. So we're up to close to 300 routes that our team is doing, and we're covering all those routes with a driver. And I say that because many school districts are having to take kids, drop them off, come back with the same bus, and take them again. But we are using every person on our transportation team staff that has a CDL license. So we have a lot of our support team that is out helping driving and doing those things as well. So doing a great job. Our facility services team, Obviously, when you take the amount of buildings and rooms that we have and you go from an unoccupied state to a occupied state and a full load, that puts a great stress on our system. So our team has done an exceptional job trying to prepare our schools for opening, and they have been responding very quickly to those work orders that have coming in, and have done an exceptional job in doing that as well. And working with our schools with their cleaning, the misting services in the evening, and working with that. Our facilities planning team, again, we had the new CTE building for Lyman High School. We had several new HVAC systems that were ready for school start. We had the renovation at Idlewild Elementary, and we had a couple security projects actually happen over the summer as well. So a lot of people are working hard, and I know even though they're not I don't necessarily support or lead them anymore, but our Red Apple Dining team, I just want to give shout out to them because they're doing an exceptional job. And the reality of it is we're averaging, and these numbers will grow, but we're about 12,000 breakfasts a day and 38,000 lunches. That number will grow. Give you some perspective to that. Last year, for the same time, in about the average, which I'll make sure, it was under 5,000 breakfasts a day, and we were just, around 13,000 lunches a day. So doing a fantastic job. Also, anyone in the community looking for work. SCPS, the best employer in the world, the country, right here. We have positions, growth opportunities, career opportunities, transportation, facility services, Red Apple Dining, whatever you want to do, we are willing to bring you on the family, train you, and have you grow with us. So that's my report.
Thank you, everybody.
And Ms. Elwood, if you would come up and share with us in regards to the COVID-19 dashboard and various things.
Good evening. As many of you have already heard from my friend Michael Lawrence on your cell phone, home phone, pet's phone, kid's phone, and computers, we have launched the COVID-19 dashboard this week. So this will include all reported positive staff and student cases at school sites since August 2nd. This dashboard is consistent in how we reported data last year out to families in the community. The first week of school, we reported out once at the end of the week. Moving forward, we will be reporting twice weekly on Tuesday mornings and Friday mornings. Since August 2nd, we've had 240 reported positive cases on school campus. 199 of those cases are active within the last 10 days. There is not currently a place on the dashboard for quarantine data, though we've had some questions about that, so I can provide you an update on those numbers as well. Since August 10th, we have quarantined 889 students and 14 staff members. And that quarantine data is of 9 a.m. this morning. On the prepareseminole.org website, you can also find our local community-wide data. There are currently 4,396 active COVID cases county-wide, which means our school cases account for roughly 4.5% of active cases in the county. That's consistent with how we looked last year. School cases represented about 5% of active cases all year last year. The county vaccination rate is sitting at 63% of the eligible population has now been vaccinated, and so that continues to increase each week. We have received updated quarantine and isolation procedures for students. That's changed about 3 times since we met last time, so our teams have been trained regularly, so including this last week, on the updated guidance from Department of Education and Department of Health. So this was based on emergency rulemaking that occurred based on Governor DeSantis's executive order. And that was to encourage shortened quarantine times and isolation protocols for students, directly related to students. So to facilitate their return to school as quickly as possible in a safe manner. So our teams have received the training on that, and those updated quarantine and isolation procedures are located on our website in the health and safety guidance, and there's a link to that that came out in the email to parents tonight from Michael as well.
Thank you. Board members, any questions? Member Sanchez.
Thank you for having the dashboard updated twice. Can you explain, I know we've received quite a few emails, explain a little bit about how we're not, with HIPAA laws, sharing information, like if a student, has been exposed and how, that part, just so we can have transparency.
Sure. The contact tracing process, when a positive individual is identified on campus or reported to a school, that person is isolated away from the campus as quickly as possible. So that's the top priority of that school, is to isolate that individual away from campus. The next step in that process is for the schools to work in collaboration with Department of Health, their school board nurse, to contact trace on the campus in accordance to the Department of Health guidelines. So then they look to identify all the close contacts of that positive individual, student or staff member, so anyone who was in 6 feet of that person for 15 minutes or more in a 24-hour period. We contact trace 4 to 8 hours from symptom onset or positive test of that individual. Once we've identified those close contacts, we notify those close contacts' families. And we also report those names to the Department of Health on an illness log. So if those close contacts meet a quarantine exemption of any kind, we verify that exemption. Either the Department of Health verifies or we verify if it's a student and we have access to those records. So if they disclose those exemptions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Amy, did you have a question? I have a question for you. We hear from parents sometimes that they want accommodations for their students who maybe have asthma or have some other medical condition. What are some of the accommodations we could make, and what are our limitations on what we're not permitted to do?
So we look at students on an individual case-by-case basis depending on their health history, and so we have school board nurses that are readily available to help with that. And so each case of asthma or any other respiratory illness looks a little different, and how that impacts the student is different. But things that we can do are breaks. Some have nebulizer treatment, some have inhalers. So we have made accommodations to look at those students and to treat that on a case-by-case basis on information that we have from the parent and doctor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, before we go into board items for discussion, if you have any comments at all, I want to say to the team that just presented prior to Ms. Elwood coming up, we enjoyed waving to the bus drivers on the first day of school, and we enjoyed ringing the bell, but we did not enjoy not being with you visiting the schools, and we look forward to going back there when it's safe for, and we allow visitors on our campus. We felt like we needed to respect that as well. So, thank you. The board members, let's start. Member Calderon, do you have anything?
Just a topic that we can mull over until perhaps our next board work session. I know we ran out of time today for additional board member topics, but I had the opportunity this week to meet with a group of concerned citizens, and I share a lot of the same concerns. This world, this country, but most importantly, our community right now is very divided. We hear it at our school board meetings, we hear it in our daily emails, and unfortunately, or fortunately, we do allow community input, and I'm grateful for that, but it's a one-way dialogue, and it's sometimes hard to communicate your thoughts in 3 minutes' time. And when you read an email or you read a text or you read a social media post, sometimes, things could be misinterpreted. So in that we're in the education business and we all live in the same community and we want to bring us all together, we might want to consider some way to have a community forum, to have diverse ideas, to be vetted, to be respected, to be questions answered, so we can try to heal and move forward as a community. I know we try to focus on our schools, but our schools are a part of our community, and we truly, as elected officials, we report to all the citizens within our community. And I don't know the best way to go forward. I was thinking maybe convening something through almost a leadership Seminole, but we all have different groups that we're affiliated with, and maybe if we could bring those groups together to have a productive, positive dialogue, we can move forward, would be my hope, and I know the citizens that shared their concerns with me feel the same. So maybe we add it to a work session in the future. It's too much for this evening, but I thought it was an important topic in that many of the instances that are happening within our school district are reflective of what's happening in our society, in this country, and in this world. So somebody's got to take a first step, and I would like to be part of that team.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else?
I'd like to chime in on the same thing. I also had a meeting with citizens in our community as well, and we can all agree to disagree. At the end of the day, we're all humans, and we all have feelings, and everybody's under different stress, and everybody has been affected by our pandemic one way or another. And instead of tearing each other apart, building each other up, and respecting each other is extremely important. And listening to each other, and extremely important. Even in our own families, we, may not see eye to eye, but we work through things. And as a community and as a school board in our schools, it's extremely important that we pull our community back together. I actually am not really on social media right now, just because I have been, yucked off by it, and I just think taking time for ourselves and just enjoying, that we are alive, and, we have thoughts and feelings, and that we all need to work together. And I appreciate the group that I met with as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Kraus? Thank you. Vice Chair Pennock?
I like that idea. I'm totally on board with that. I did just want to go on public record and say we get a lot of emails from the community, from parents, from citizens, from you name it. We get the emails, we read them, and one of the discussions that we've had as a team to not duplicate is if we see one member of our group has already responded, we've kind of asked that we respect that answer has been sent and not duplicate our efforts. So we hope that the community realizes that if you get a response to the email, you are getting a response from the board. We read the emails. You're not going to get 5 different emails from 5 of us. You're getting a response, and we do read them. So I just wanted to make sure that we have communicated that out, that we're not ignoring. We do read them. We respect and learn a lot from the perspectives that are shared with us and appreciate it. But we do sometimes get feedback that, well, only one person responded to me, or, it's not disrespectful it's not meant to disrespect the community or the people emailing us. It's just out of respect of your time and our time as well.
Well said. Thank you. Okay. Please, Vice Chair Pennock, please read the public input statement.
Public comments related to education, the board agenda, and the district are welcome and encouraged. A public comment opportunity is not, however, an open forum to discuss matters unrelated to education, to support, oppose candidates for public office, or to engage in commercial speech attempting to sell a service or product to the board or the public. Also, public comment is not a forum to engage in personal attacks against school system employees or board members. To maintain orderly conduct, the public comment segment of this meeting may not be used for any other purposes, including presentation of political and/or campaign issues, matters involving disciplinary action, pending employee disciplinary matters, or pending claims, complaints, or litigations against the district or district personnel. Participants are required to engage in meaningful but civil communications. The presiding officer of the board and/or parliamentarian may order the removal of the person interfering with the expeditious or orderly process of such meeting, provided such officer has first issued a warning that continued interference with the orderly process of the meeting will result in removal. All statements should be directed at the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually. Each statement made by a member of the public shall be limited to 3 meetings in duration. A designated group representative will have a maximum of 6 minutes. No speaker may yield his or her time to another person. This policy does not prohibit the board from maintaining orderly conduct or proper decorum in a public meeting.
Thank you. So I'll call the speakers up 3 at a time, just so you're kind of prepared. The first one will come up and speak. Kathy Savage, Ed Meesom, and Elaine Thomas. Kathy?
Good evening, Superintendent Beeman and board members. My name is Kathy Savage, and I'm here tonight to appeal to you to mandate both masks and vaccinations against COVID in school. With most of our children back in the classroom face-to-face, social distancing is impossible. This makes it more important than ever that students, as well as teachers, wear masks and get vaccinated, not either or. Francis Collins, leader of the Human Genome Project and director of the National Institute of Health, stated that masks are not a political statement or invasion of your liberties. This is a life-saving medical device, and asking kids to wear a mask is uncomfortable, but kids are pretty resilient, end quote. What kids aren't always so resilient to is from COVID itself. It's not just death we worry about, but cognitive and cardiac repercussions that sometimes don't show up until 6 months after an infection. I would hate to think that we have subjected a child to a lifetime of health problems. In addition, we know that even asymptomatic children can spread COVID, and we also know that the Delta variant spreads much more easily than previous variants. And every time it spreads to someone else, it has the opportunity to mutate again. Yesterday, it was announced by the UK government official scientific advisory group, that they believe it is almost certain that a SARS-CoV-2 variant will emerge that leads to vaccine failure. And that, since it is unlikely the virus will be eradicated, they recommend the authorities continue to reduce virus transmission as much as possible. This is not just about our children, but about the communities they live in and nurture them. The history of vaccination requirements for school-aged children began over 150 years ago when Massachusetts first required them to prevent the spread of smallpox. That's 150 years ago. Spoiler alert, it worked. Adding one more vaccine to the list of required vaccinations today may not be a big deal to the child being vaccinated, but could be a matter of life and death to someone else. More than 500,000 people in the United States have died from this virus, approximately 7 million in the world. This country, with less than about 4% of the entire world population, has seen more than 8.5% of the deaths. That is insane and embarrassing. This is a global pandemic, and our moral responsibility should lead much further than just the classroom. How can we proclaim to be role models and to inspire when we allow a minority of people who have nothing behind their words except volume to dictate our actions? We should be teaching our children to be principled in the face of those who have mistaken patriotism for morality, to be selfless in the face of selfishness, and to be brave when faced with an angry mob hell-bent on making waves for attention-seeking purposes, and to seek out the needle of evidence in the haystack of falsehoods. Some opinions do not deserve our respect. Meanwhile, I am teaching in a classroom where 40% of my students are unmasked. I don't blame them. They are children, and they have been indoctrinated to believe that facts are fluid and can be created out of nothing but hot air. And yet I've seen photo after photo where all but 2 of you are maskless. You should be leading by example. I used to respect many of you, but now I think you should be ashamed. There is no excuse to not follow the evidence. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on one second. Board members, as a point of correction, we did receive an acknowledgement form, but the form did not fall within the groups that you typically acknowledge, as noted on the form. Also, today, you received an email forwarded to you from a Shira Elkins. Her comments were sent to you for your consideration, and her comments will be recorded into the record of this school board meeting.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Ed Meeson, Winter Park. The two best tools we have to fight COVID are vaccines and masks. I'm glad to see so many more people masked tonight. Some people contend that mask wearing should be a choice. Well, they're right about one thing. It's no fun wearing a mask. Masks do slightly hamper breathing. However, they are wrong about the efficacy of mask wearing. Masks do work and help curb the spread of the virus in this pandemic we are all living through. Medicine has known that masks work for over a century. Currently, the entire country of Vietnam has only 104 COVID deaths. Not this week, not this month, since the beginning of January of 2020. Yes, it is a bit harder to breathe with a mask on, but you know what makes breathing really hard? COVID-19. Vaccines work. The U.S. has had over 620,000 COVID deaths without vaccines. We've had under 1,000 that have been vaccinated, and those were very immunocompromised with comorbidities. Certainly 620,000 is a lot greater than 1,000. So both masks and vaccines work. Moving on to my second point, please don't take my word for the following. Please check with the council, the board's council, and see if what I'm saying it makes any sense. In a recent court case, Norwegian Cruise Lines sued the state of Florida. The judge ruled that the state cannot order organizations to operate less safely. Therefore, the law penalizing cruise lines requiring vaccination records for passengers and crews is an illegal order. Do you all remember the movie A Few Good Men with Jack Nicholson and Tom Cruise? They made a big deal about Code Red. Code Red was an illegal order. That was the point. The board has an obligation and a responsibility to disregard illegal orders. We have a responsibility to operate safely. You can't just say, oh, well, you're free to stop at a red light. No. You have to stop at a red light to protect yourself and the other pedestrians and people in traffic. Under penalty of law, you have to stop. I say please use the tools that we have. What is the other plan, the alternative? Let her rip, do nothing? Science is now telling us that the new Delta variant is as contagious as smallpox. I saw a report that Orange County schools are experiencing a 4% pro-choice opt-out, no mask wearing. Would you let 4% of the children with smallpox into the schools? I don't think so. This board has been threatened with lawsuits, defunding, loss of pay, being primaried. Wouldn't you rather face these threats knowing that you did everything you could to mitigate the spread of this deadly disease? Wouldn't you feel better about yourselves knowing that you did the best you could for the safety of our children? I suggest you side with the 96% of those parents who want to keep their children safe. Please disregard the illegal order and implement protections, especially for those children under 12 that cannot get the vaccine now. Please have them wear masks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lane Thomas and Joy Stricker and Shelby Jones.
Elaine Thomas, Lake Mary, thank you to all the board members and residents for hearing our voice and for speaking our voice. It seems as though some of us need to go back to school. So for those in the back, this isn't about masks or vaccines. This is about rights. I'm going to just start with some things that we should all be familiar with. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their powers, their just powers, from the consent of the governed. That's by us. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States. And here's one that might hit a little bit closer. We, the people of the state of Florida, being grateful to our mighty God for our constitutional liberty, in order to secure its benefits, perfect our government, ensure domestic tranquility, maintain public order, and guarantee equal civil and political rights to all, do ordain and establish this Constitution. Liberty, the unalienable right, a right that can't be taken away from us. Liberty, what a blessing. But what is liberty? It seems as though our governments and appointed representatives have forgotten about it, as well as some of our community members. Liberty is the state of being free within society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority on one's way of life, behavior, or political views. It seems with overreach in power from schools, boards, administrations, and elected officials, we need to remind you of what the state of being free actually means. It means you don't have the right to dictate what is best for me and my family. That is reserved for each individual to discern what is best. Let me repeat that. You don't have the right. We have appointed all of you, at least most of you, to do what is best for our children in the school districts. That doesn't mean mandating masks, segregating vaccinated and unvaccinated, contact tracing, and then manipulating our students and student athletes with the threat of being suspended from games or even school events if they do not comply. In fact, opting out of a mandate is ridiculous when there shouldn't be a mandate in the first place. You don't have the right to mandate what is my right to choose. I am standing here today. I'm actually standing here on behalf of the teachers that were afraid to speak up because of the unions and for fear of losing their job. But I'm standing here to put you on notice that you're acting outside of your constitutional authority, and that's according to Florida State Constitution, Article 23 on personal autonomy. We're watching, and I thank God for everyone here that is standing up for this right, not only for our children, but for future generations. I thank God for giving us our inalienable rights, which you have no authority to take away from us as parents and as citizens. But those rights you have stripped from all the teachers and staff in Seminole County. Shame on you.
Before I read what I prepared, I want to just say I've been a parent here 13 years. I've been happy every moment until this year. My children have been happy every moment until this year. I would like to be part of the solution to fix our neighborhood. And Tina, I would volunteer myself if you want to be on your team, fix things. Now I will read what I prepared.
Please introduce yourself for the record.
My name is Joy Stricker. I live in Sweetwater Oaks. Here are some simple abbreviations to remind you of why you are all here. You are here for SATs, ACTs, FSAs, and EOCs. You are not here for BLM, LGBTQ, and CRT. Contrary to popular belief, you are not hired to be social justice warriors. You are hired to be educators. When I was a junior in high school, I went to Brown University for a tour and an interview. Do you know what the tour guide told my parents right in front of me? He said, quote, "Mr. and Mrs. Seibel, the last thing Brown needs is another white Jewish girl from Brooklyn. Now, if your daughter was black and played the tuba, that would be a different story." I recall this because I have never seen anything different. But recently, critical race theory has risen up from sea to shining sea as the liberal solution to the current socioeconomic disparities between whites and blacks, which still exist despite nearly 6 decades of affirmative action. You know what? I never owned slaves. Neither did my parents or my grandparents. But even if they did, how many generations back do we need to go today for somebody, anybody, to stand up and say critical race theory is wrong? I will never apologize to anyone for the color of my skin. Shame on school boards across this great nation for trying to teach kids to hate themselves and each other. And shame on this board for failing to stand up and say Seminole County Schools is banning CRT and disbanding our equity committee. When I was my younger daughter's age, my mom wouldn't let my best friend from high school, Monique, over my house because she was black. I vowed to do better. I tell my kids, I don't care what your friends are like on the outside, as long as they are good people on the inside. CRT is swinging the pendulum too far in the other direction and causing hatred and division. The only division kids should be learning is in math class, but you are so busy making them pick a pronoun that a generation of kids will be useless in the workforce. And the teachers' unions are too busy trying to figure out how to get millions of white kids to hate themselves. Abraham Lincoln once said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." Seminole County now stands completely divided along racial lines because of this board.
Your time is up, Ms. Stricker.
I am just one person, but I am not afraid. Just like the little boy in the story of the Emperor's New Clothes, I tell the school board that your unethical teaching practices, both online and in the classroom, have been exposed. Ban CRT now. Thank you.
Shelby Jones, Virginia Dean, Bella Frick.
Good evening. I'd like to address the board today again, asking for a universal mask mandate.
Please identify yourself for the record.
Sorry, I'm Shelby
Thank
Jones. We want all our children to be able to go to school face to face. In order for us to keep kids in the classroom, we need to use mitigation measures to control the spread of COVID-19 to prevent short shutdowns. Many quarantines are already in process, and these are bad for everyone. Parents, teachers, students. Teachers who have gone above and beyond the call of duty over the past year will be asked yet again to give more. They will be required to provide home learning activities for students home on quarantine in addition to their face-to-face classroom duties. Quarantines also disproportionately affect our minority students, further widening education gaps. We will be unable to protect and offer services to economically and physically vulnerable children. Children with IEPs are not getting the services they need. If all children were masked, this would significantly reduce the number of quarantines, because if both children are masked, quarantine is not required. The U.S. is seeing more acute cases of COVID-19 in children requiring hospitalization. Not only are vaccines not available to this age group, the emergency use monoclonal antibodies that are all the rage right now are not available to children under 12 years old. Dr. Hobbs, an infectious disease specialist, states, universal masking shouldn't be a debate, because it's the one thing with adult vaccination that can be done to protect this vulnerable population. This isn't a political issue, it's a public health issue, period, end quote. I want to emphasize this is a public health problem, not a debate about the rights of individual parents making decisions for individual children. Their choice affects my child. Additionally, as a healthcare provider for the last 15 years, 10 of those as a registered nurse working in the intensive care unit, I can tell you we have never seen anything like this. It is so bad right now. There aren't enough nurses. The ones we have double the patients they're supposed to accommodate people pouring into the ER. We don't have enough ventilators or sedation or paralytics. We use paralytics because we have to chemically paralyze patients to force their bodies to tolerate incredibly high ventilator settings. There's been so much death, so much suffering, mostly preventable. 99% of these people chose not to be vaccinated. Nurses, doctors, RT, PT, OT, dietitians, social workers, hospital chaplains, we're exhausted. Our politicians and the internet are not superior to the advice of experts. At this point, there's no excuse for inaction. You have been provided with updated data that you need. You have all you need to support this decision. 85% of parents rejected the opt-out. That's the majority. And you have the support of the federal government as well. Some members have already given their support for the universal mask mandate, and we are so grateful. For the rest of you, please, consider it. You could save lives. You could prevent suffering. This community needs you, please, and our children need you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bella, then Misty, then Julie.
Good evening. My name is Bella Rose. I am in the 4th grade. I do not wear a mask to school. It is not fair to my teacher or my dad to have to wear one. It is also hard to hear my teacher. Please drop the 30-day mask option and make it all year long. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, it wasn't, oh, hi. Thank you for responding to my emails. I think it was Ms. Cruz, but I know it's all of you. Anyway, sorry, I'm nervous, tired. I just wanted to say, many people are saying that it's political, the mask. Well, not in my case with my child. We have medical exemptions, medical conditions I don't think I need to share with everyone here. So to me, it's not political, it's medical, and I think as a parent, I have a right to decide what's best for my child. Anyway, virtual school, I got an email from Seminole County on August 5th telling us by August 6th we had to make a decision. My daughter was so excited to go back to school, my son, and myself, because that's where they learn best. And Seminole County is one of the best schools, I believe, in Florida, and that's why I came here. Recently, I looked up, it says we're number 4. I think we're number 1. But anyway, I was so excited. And then on August 7th, we got an email saying mandated masks. I was so disheartened because I know you've seen me here many times all year long speaking out about my concerns. Anyway, I know I can't ask questions, but I wrote it that way, and I'm nervous, so I'm just saying it that way. I want to know what happens after 30 days. I did call the school board, and I didn't get an answer. I didn't call it like the board office, you know, what they call the glass house. I called, and they told me to look at the website. I really couldn't find an answer. But I want to know what happens after 30 days. Then my child will not be attending school. I'll have to take her out, probably go with the HOPE option that DeSantis talking about. Or, I don't know, will SCPS be opened again for the children? Because the deadline was August 6th, but then I found out about the mask August 7th, so that left me too late. You know what I'm saying? So I want to know from you guys what will happen if you do mandate masks. I thought we learned all last year that the mask versus the unmasked, they were the same COVID outcomes. And again, someone up here said, I think your first speaker spoke about masks being medical devices. Well, then again, I think as a parent, I have a right. Schools were created for education. Recently, I saw there's a new Ceiling Sunny Smiles Across Florida. That's not coming from you, it's the Department of Health. But when I look at it, I'm looking at it as a hygienist are going to be in our school to do dental care. I don't know about anyone else, but when I bring my child, I'm not bringing them to a hygienist, I'm bringing them to a dentist. I'm not going to have some lay person do hearing screenings, vision tests, performed on my children that are not qualified doctors. School is for education, not health care.
Your time is up, please.
Okay, well, and I'm also against forced vaccines because of medical conditions that I don't have to disclose. Sorry, I'm nervous and tired, but I want to tell you one thing. This first week and last week with her with no mask, nobody picked on her. She had a great experience, and thank you for making that happen.
Thank you. Misty, and then Julie, and then Cheryl Bryant.
Hello, I am Misty, and I am a resident of Seminole County and a parent of 4 children, 2 which have graduated from Seminole County School and the younger 2 still attending Seminole County Public Schools. Just a couple reminders that I think it's important for everyone to hear, and I know we've already heard it tonight, but we're going to hear it again. People willing to trade their freedom for temporary security deserve neither and will lose both, according to Benjamin Franklin. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide the common defense, promote the general welfare and security of the blessings of liberty. The Constitution is a legal binding document. It's the law of the land, whether you like it or not. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. That we are endowed by our Creator. I'm sorry. As you can tell, this is an emotional time for all these parents, no matter what side of the line we stand on.
It's about the education of our children and the rights of us as Americans. As we can see overseas right now, like that, they could be stripped away. Now, I didn't plan on saying that, so I'm going to get back to my speech. I'm sorry. The country was founded on personal rights and personal responsibility. All that being said, I'm claiming, or should I say we are claiming, our personal responsibility that we will not allow you or any other government entity to mask our children, nor will we allow you to force vaccinations on our children. Our bodies, our choices, our children, our choice. Also, some may claim that we are anti-vaxxers, but I can tell you from my family, we're not anti-vaxxers. We're anti-forced vaccines. As others said, I'm sure, as others have said, I'm also here on behalf of the teachers and staff that are being forced to mask right now before school started. We talk about no bullying, but this is bullying from the top and sowing seeds of divisiveness. Some here have said that the risk of COVID to the children, is the risk of COVID to the children. Facts. According to the New England Journal of Medicine, children are much more likely to die from car accident, drowning, and suicide. Does that mean that we no longer allow our children in a car or in a pool? The suicide, that's a whole nother topic. Your job as a board, as a delegation, is to secure our rights as parents, and our children's rights. Never in my life did I think I would ever be standing here having to fight for these freedoms. But you don't push someone in a corner, especially a parent, when it comes to our children. If you've heard from previous meetings, citizens have said, we've been on the sidelines. We may previously have been sat by idle, but that's no more. We're no longer silent. We aren't going away. You've awakened mama bears and papa bears. You are elected officials, and a member of the school board is to ensure the best possible education for our children, not indoctrination, period. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Julie Wonder, and I'm just coming to you guys tonight with a concern that kind of manifested last night. First, I want to say thank you to all of you for what you do for our children and teachers. I'm sure it's not a fun time, the most pleasant time to be sitting in those seats, and I appreciate your dedication. My concern tonight is over the different quarantine rules that are put in place for students versus when they're vaccinated or unvaccinated. And there's a couple issues with regards to that has me concerned. Number one, if you're speaking from a medical standpoint, I feel like it's been communicated that vaccinated people can still carry and become sick with COVID. So when I'm reading that those kids are exempt from being quarantined, it doesn't seem like there should be two sets of rules there. Because, you know, if we can be exempt from quarantine, then why are they wearing a mask? You know, it doesn't make any sense. From another standpoint, and the one that's more concerning to me, is from a mental health situation and a form of ethics too, in that you've got two different groups of people being treated differently based on choices that were made. Whatever the reason for those choices were, they are definitely being pinpointed, because when you're, like, let's pretend you're in a middle school classroom where there's the option of being vaccinated, and so the middle school, there's a class that's all exposed, and so everyone kind of gets the call, you've been exposed, but then a certain group of those kids show up at school tomorrow, the next day, because they've been vaccinated, but then immediately then you know those other kids have not been, based on the fact that they did not show back up at school. So even though you're not directly disclosing someone's medical records, you are still indirectly communicating to everyone around them that those kids have not been vaccinated, because otherwise why wouldn't they be back at school, you know? So I guess as a parent, as a teacher, I've been a teacher for 20 years, a secondary math teacher. The last 12 have been at virtual school, and I get so many kids that have mental health issues before all of this. And just, you know, I have a middle schooler, I have an elementary son, and it made me happy today that on our walk home from school, he was talking to me about the flow, those emotional, cooling down things that he learned at school today, and that was his highlight, so I loved it. I always cry when I talk, so I'm trying not to cry, but I just don't want kids to have an opening to be bullied for something, because, you are communicating to people when there's two different sets of rules. So I guess what I'm trying to say is if you're going to have a rule, I understand that there's protocols. We have to have protocols. I get that. I get that we have to quarantine for safety reasons sometimes, but it should be the same for everyone to avoid that stigma. Because at the end of the day, and educationally too, you're basically rewarding vaccinated kids by getting to return to school and learn with all the modalities available to them, as opposed to just being in a virtual setting and having to do it at home.
Time.
I don't want there to be, I just want everyone to be treated fairly.
Thank you. Carol Bryant, Judy Ngang, Julia Squitter, I hope that I said that properly. Hello.
Good evening, Superintendent Beeman and board members. My name is Judy Ning, and I teach at Lake Howell High School. First day of school, I received a notice of a student out for 10 days, and that's what they tell us when they're quarantined. The next day, another was out, but this time tested positive for COVID. This has continued every single day since last Tuesday. Twice I was asked if anyone was exposed to these students for more than 15 minutes and less than 3 feet away. I have 30 kids in my classroom. No one sits 3 feet away from anyone. COVID feels out of control. The stress of planning with these kids being absent and their emails saying, oh my God, I'm so afraid I'm gonna miss your class, and I don't know what to do, and there's just a lot of stress. They're having a real tough time adjusting to this year anyway. Some are vaccinated and they don't wear masks, and some are not vaccinated and don't wear masks. I have no idea who has that opt-out letter. That really has become a joke. Mask wearing changes daily. I'm a science teacher, but I no longer feel like I can do a group lab, which is really a shame, especially in high school, because I don't think it's going to be safe for my students. If someone is unmasked, I cannot ask if they are vaccinated, so how can the other kids know if they're safe around them? These kids are not stupid. They know COVID is real, and they know that masks protected them last year. And they also know that when the vaccines came and the masks were worn, that it really plummeted, that COVID really took a dive. I know we've got the new variant. Our kids are too important to risk their health. Your job is to keep our kids safe. Please listen to reason, facts, and science. I support returning to the mask mandate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Julia Squitieri, and I am a senior at Haggerty High School. Members of the respective school board, thank you for having us here today. First and foremost, we would like to thank the members of the Student Conduct Committee for working with my team and me for the past year. Serving as a student voice on this committee has been an honor, and we recognize the removal of the word cleavage from the 2021 to 2022 dress code policy with gratitude. However, we also recognize that the current SCPS dress code policy is still gender discriminatory by prohibiting halter tops, tube tops, backless dresses/tops, spaghetti straps, crop tops, and tank tops. Seminole County Public Schools is explicitly banning items of clothing that would most often be found in the women's section of a clothing store. So when we're enforcing these policies, which students are being impacted? The answer? Feminine students, and especially women of color. If the county before me is insistent upon prohibiting shirts that show shoulders, why do we not simply ban shirts that show shoulders, as opposed to prohibiting items of dress most often worn by feminine students? This question is also addressing the fact that dress code policies most often target, sexualize, victimize, and punish feminine students for their bodies, but for also daring to dress according to their own standards, instead of paternalistic, archaic, and patriarchal standards. Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972 prohibits sex discrimination, including disproportionately enforcing dress code policies against feminine students. According to the ACLU, disproportionately targeting specific student demographics via enforcement can violate Title IX along with other state and federal laws. Today we ask the school board before us to take action against these egregious provisions by using your power to usher in their removal. We have worked with the Student Conduct Committee to address these issues, and today we stand here before you all to directly ask you to take action against gender discrimination in our schools, as dictated by both federal and state law. Provisions such as those I have outlined today have done more harm than good to the students of this school district, and will continue to do so if SCPS does not remove this gender discriminatory language from Section 3B and Section 3A of the dress code. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Cheryl Bryan, are you still here? Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Cheryl Bryant. I just want to say God bless all of you, and may He guide you and give you discernment as you make all these tough decisions. Seminole County Public, did I say my name? Cheryl Bryant? I did, yeah. Seminole County Public Schools must stop using Khan Academy as a learning resource. In a tweet from Khan Academy on June 19th, 2020, it was, "We at Khan Academy stand firmly behind Black Lives Matter. As a phrase, Black Lives Matter is simultaneously an obvious truth in our contemporary era. Who does not believe that Black Lives Matter? Of course they do. And the same three words, but capitalized, stand for a multi-million-dollar movement and network of organizations that have spearheaded, orchestrated, and been the face of the actions taken by the misguided after the death of George Floyd, which resulted in 19 dead people, over $2 billion in property damage, and 1,500 innocent businesses destroyed in Minnesota alone. What is the FBI's definition of terrorism? Violent criminal acts committed to further ideological goals stemming from domestic influence, such as those of religious, social, racial, or an environmental nature. The founders of BLM, Patrisse Cullors, Opal Tonetti, and Alicia Garza, organized around the phrase Black Lives Matter and used it for their style of neo-Marxist and intersectional queer feminist Black liberation identity politics. It is a politics that claimed on the BLM website until it was removed because of pressure that we disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family. Critical race theory applied principles, or CRAP as I like to call it, is the dominant ideology behind the BLM social movement. The network of BLM organizations and is now infused in the otherwise innocuous phrase Black Lives Matter, lowercase. Un-American CRT explicitly diverges from the traditional approaches to civil rights by calling into question the liberal order, equality theory, Enlightenment rationalism, the Judeo-Christian ethic, and the neutral principle of constitutional law. CRT holds that the most important thing about you is your race, the color of your skin. That is who you are, not your behavior, not your values, not your environment. It is your race. That is racist. Needless to say, when I began reviewing Khan Academy anew, I was heartbroken to see that the Khan Academy organization backs and its lessons are infused with the crap ideas, in addition to their social media posts, which you can find on Twitter and Facebook. All vestiges of CRT must be removed from the public school curricula. CRAP promotes three ideas: race essentialism, collective guilt, and neo-segregation. Look at what's going on in our communities and our schools.
Your time
These
is
all
up.
violate the basic principles of equality and justice. Alternatives need to be found. We love our parents and students of all colors. We will not continue to be divided by this poison ideology. Thank you.
So Jasmine Cade, Dan Smith, and Michelle Burrows.
Hello, my name is Jasmine Carr, and I'm a senior at Haggerty High School. We are here today to ask the school board before us to use their power to remove the gender discriminatory language in Section 3B of the dress code, in which items of clothing usually worn by feminine students are explicitly targeted and prohibited. The dress code is detrimental to so many. Today, I'm going to lift up the testimonies of SCPS students who have been victimized by these policies. An anonymous student from Millennium Middle School recalled, "My civics teacher claimed that I was against the dress code because my leggings were too revealing when they weren't. I am a more overweight person than others, but because others were wearing short shorts, they weren't being dress coded." And when asked how this experience impacted her, she claimed, "I used to be confident in my body, but now I'm extremely insecure about my body." Another student from Lawton Childs Middle School said that she missed the rest of class and the first 30 minutes of an exam in the next period waiting for my mom to show up with a change of clothes. "It was embarrassing. It made me feel awful about my body. It wasn't the first time, and it wasn't going to be the last. For years, I continued to be dress coded for the same reason, which made me feel awful and was detrimental to my mental health as a young adult." A student at Seminole High School who's chosen to remain anonymous cited missing 3 class periods because when I lifted my shirt, you could see my stomach. A student from Teague Middle School recalled that there was a day where the school dean chased me down the hallway for the dress code. She called me ghetto, and she told me that I looked like a hooker. At Rock Lake Middle School, a student recounted, "My male dean was staring at my chest, and it was making me really uncomfortable. He then told me that girls with bigger chests can't wear low-cut shirts. It made me cry. I was only 11 or 12. These voices are present in every hallway. They represent the punishment of feminine students whose education is neglected at the expense of our dress code policies. I ask you not only to take action for our own perspective, but also for these voices that I've showed. Take action to make sure that there aren't more stories like this scarring our students of Seminole County." Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Smith.
My name is Dan Smith. I am a resident of Seminole County and a teacher in Seminole County Public Schools. Currently, I serve as president of the Seminole Education Association, which represents teachers in Seminole County. School board members, superintendent, thank you for the time. I'd like to speak about the district's mask policy. On August 5th, the district reached out to the association to discuss input for a mask policy for August 10th when the students return to class. Although I would have preferred that the policy put a temporary mask requirement in place for the year, I was happy. I felt the district made a very big step in at least going forward and addressing, and I was more than happy to, to agree and sign on with that with the teachers. The policy, as I read it, was going to require masks for all people, SCPS, except for the students, and it makes sense because although I disagree with the policy, it is part of the governor's executive order. Additionally, policy was amended on the fly over the weekend before the students had come in, so it seemed like the district was monitoring infection rates in changing the policy for that reason. Given the parents the option to opt out if their child wearing a mask, was policy as sensitive as a hot potato issue, and students at the time that I read it were going to be asked to give the opt-out notes to either their homeroom or their first period teacher. I had encouraged our teachers to just keep their mouths shut and not address this at all. It's very sensitive, and I didn't want them in harm's way. And our teachers treating all of their students the same way, whether they're masking or not. And the district policy place and let the school administration enforce the policy. On Friday, unfortunately, I learned at the end of the week that student attendance, the opt-out policy, wasn't being implemented in the schools, nor was it being enforced. In the secondary schools, for example, grades 6 through 12, the students have roughly 7 classes a day. So in order for the district's mask policy to protect the students, teachers, and the school would need to know which students had opted out, so they'd be able to monitor. But they have no idea. Some of the ones that might have gotten the letters in the beginning to move them on would have known, but many schools were implementing their own policies, and that's not what I understood to be the policy originally. I was hoping it was going to be a district policy that would be down and consistent in all the schools. So really, although there is a policy, there's really no way of knowing if anybody has an opt-in a letter or not. There's no list or anything, and the teachers have no way of knowing. The parents trust the teachers, and we have a lot of fearful parents trying to keep their kids safe. And they speak with the child's teacher, and they may tell them that their child needs to be masked, but the teacher would have no idea whether it is or not, and they can't monitor and get back to them. Our teachers are not going to engage, but if the parent of the masked child, the teacher wants to help the parent, they wouldn't be able to do it. Our teachers in the front line, and regardless of executive order, they do everything they can to protect the students. When teachers were asked for dividers in the classroom in order to help stop spread the infection, the teachers were told that they could only get one if a parent requested the divider. I find that to be very curious, as I don't see that as any part of the executive order. That sounds like a political decision, and I'm hoping that you would remove that and allow the teachers to protect themselves and the students. On Friday, when the districts activated the COVID dashboard, at the time they had a reported 84 cases on the dashboard. This morning, I think you know there was 240. So unless we're leveling out, and unfortunately the experts don't seem to feel that way, we could be looking at big numbers coming in here. And we got to have something. We have to have something in place here for protection. Last week, you know this, the Seminole County had 2,900 new COVID cases, the positivity rate of 22%. They still have a threshold of 5%, which would be under control. So Seminole County at this time is about 4 times out of control, and it's not under control. So the children are getting sick and the teachers are getting sick, and you can stop this. You can do it. The opt-out mask policy, even if the district was willing to implement it, is going to be almost similar and consistent to what they did in the 1990s when restaurants implemented a smoking section in there in order to allow people who didn't want to smoke so they wouldn't have the effects of the smoke. As you can guess, it didn't work. There's no barriers. You can't keep the smoke out. And people stopped going to restaurants. The restaurants then changed the policy to none at all, no smoking. And I've spoken to many parent groups over the last couple of weeks through the summer, both local and nationally, and a lot of them are not letting their kids return to school. Seminole County right now has a decrease of about 4,000 students in the last 2 years. We want to get them back because I think the children deserve an education. President Jefferson, I think you know, has said that if a law is unjust, a man is not only right to disobey it, but he's obligated to do so. You don't have to follow an immoral order. This order is going to cause danger and get people sick in the community, and you don't have an obligation to do it. But if you can't come up with at least one reason why the mask mandate cannot be implemented that is not political, I'm listening. Other than that, as always, I am here ready to help and assist any way you like. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Michelle Burrows.
Guys, my name is Michelle Burrows. I am a resident of Oviedo. I do also have 4 kids within the district. I want to point out a few things. Our seasonal wave, it clearly is on the downslope. I've heard many medical professionals say this over the past couple months. However, the news and local hospitals that you guys choose to listen to continue to try to push the fear. They're using the percentages because the numbers are not alarming. However, if you look at the dash, there is currently 199 active cases. Many happened off campus and were reported. If you really look at the numbers, though, we have about 67,000 students and about 10,000 school staff members across the district. That actually makes our cases only about 0.25% of SCPS's population. Cases are going to happen as long as people are leaving their houses, which is never going to stop, and as long as people are testing. The whole testing and quarantining asymptomatic people makes no sense whatsoever. Where was all of this when the flu was killing hundreds of children in 2019? Not to mention, healthy children ages 0 to 25 have about a 0.00016% death rate of COVID. In fact, we haven't had one COVID death reported within Seminole County since the first week of June. Still, our superintendent continues to go above the authority and implement rules without allowing public input or even input from her own board members. Mandating masks for staff and children, even with the ability to opt out, is not necessary. And it's simply a political move to please her mentor at OCPS and to stick it to our governor's Parents' Bill of Rights. It simply allows the teachers to know which students they are allowed to police about masks. Teachers should not need to worry about this. They have enough on their plate trying to teach the regular curriculum to our children. Not to mention, they also deserve the option of choice as well. Teachers that catch COVID and miss work are also being discriminated against based on vax status, and it's very disgusting. To say an unvaxxed teacher will not be paid if they miss work due to COVID is absurd and unlawful. I'm sure you all have figured out by now that the vaccinated are still catching and spreading COVID, so there should be no quarantine exceptions based on vax status for students or teachers. Each family, individual, should have the ability to decide how they want to protect themselves without prejudice or discrimination of any kind. We have proven treatments that work as outpatient early intervention or prevention altogether. And the majority of our population also has the ability to get vaccinated. It's time for us to get back to living our lives and our kids and our teachers to have a normal, enjoyable school year, including campus visitors, volunteers, and events. It is no one's business whose kids or staff members are wearing a mask or not, vaccinated or not, or who tests positive. This includes teachers and students. No one should be asking these questions.
It's time, Ms. Burrows.
Being at the school board with mask choice is no more dangerous than going to a grocery store or a restaurant either.
Thank you. So Ms. Pennock passed me a note that said how many more speakers are there, and I'm sure everyone would like to know. So we'll be done right about 7:30, 7:35 with public input, and then we'll take a quick break, okay? Eric Wilson, Linda Trocine, Michelle Manella.
Eric Wilson, longtime resident of Seminole County, matter of fact, lifelong. And I would just like to say, I'd like to give a hand to these students that are coming up and, speaking their mind. It's good that we see students getting involved in this process here because really, this is where the next generation begins. And going with that, we keep on hearing people hammer away at the same exact thing, the Constitution of this great country. Regardless of what side of the political aisle, whether you are a union rep or whomever you are, the Constitution is the law of this great land. This is what our founding fathers spent every single last bit of life, liberty, and treasure to create this exceptional government that we have, that is a constitutional republic, not a democracy. The thing that concerns me is that whenever we see superintendents think that it's okay just to sign an executive order and everything should be fine and everyone should comply. Well, I can tell you that as far as I'm concerned, your executive order means nothing because we will not comply. And it is very, very absolutely abhorrent that our teachers, our staff, and your faculty, you're putting a muzzle on their face. Why? We've heard people give actual factual numbers and not the fear-mongering and the fear porn that keeps on banging away at us every single day. We keep hearing about, oh, well, we want to have this CRT training. We want to have this equity nonsense. Why can't we all just be Americans, respect each other's constitutional right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? That's what it's all about. And the problem is that we have people that want to take their authority over a level that it is not. You, as you heard the young lady give the article of the Declaration of Independence, you work for us, not teachers' unions. You work for we, the people, and not people that line your pockets and try and dictate to what we're going to do. This country, we have elected representatives, and those representatives do our bidding, not unions, not lobbyists, and not special interests. It is time that these mask mandates go away. It is time for it to be completely gone. As far as vaccine mandates, it's my body, my choice. It's the children's body, their choice. The parent's child, their choice. And we will not comply.
Linda Trucine, Geneva, Florida. It's been a long time since I've been before the school board. As always, I want to thank the 5 of you for serving as our elected representatives. Clearly, there's a lot of passions, and that's what brought me out tonight. John Taylor Gatto taught 8th grade English for 30 years in New York City. He won the New York State Teacher of the Year Award back in 1991. He quit teaching in the public schools at that same year because of the harm that public schooling was doing to his students. He wrote several books. He spent the next 10 years researching it. One of the books is called Weapons of Mass Instruction. Another is called Dumbing Us Down. If Gatto were alive today, he could easily add a chapter to his Dumbing Us Down book with the harm that is coming to children from the litany of documented problems with face coverings. Parents are starting to figure out that public schools are not here for the best interests of their individual children, but to serve the system. Nationally, right now, twice as many children are enrolled in home education programs than just a year ago because the public school system has been unable to navigate COVID. When a parent enrolls their child in a home education program, the parent gets to decide the face covering policies. The parent gets to choose a curriculum that's individually tailored for their child. And the parent can ensure that there is no Marxist indoctrination such as CRT. A home educator is the guidance counselor, the security officer, and the principal. Homeschooling was the most liberating experience of my life. Meanwhile, the Hope Scholarship is also available to families. Ben Gibson, the vice chair of the State Board of Education, stated that if a parent has opted their child out of wearing a mask, the student, quote, shall not be subject to harassment or discriminatory treatment, including but not limited to relegation to certain physical locations, isolation during school activities, or exclusion from any school-sponsored activities, end quote. Parents are free to choose a private school if a teacher or administrator subjects the child to COVID-19 harassment. Frankly, the onus should be on parents to opt in on masks rather than on parents to opt out. I don't know why parents should have to send a note requesting permission for their children to breathe freely. Last, I'd ask you to consider what will happen to this great school district when more and more parents leave. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Linda.
My name is Michelle Manella. I live in Longwood.
I'm concerned that Seminole County Public Schools is on a path which they no longer work in tandem with parents to educate children, but instead are fostering an adversarial relationship with parents and undermining parental wishes. This is evidenced by many things, including masking policies, the pop-up vaccination clinics, your recent policy denying the rights of parents to be present on campus, and now the allocation of building space and school hours to provide oral health services. Regarding masks, I'd like to remind you of the June 2021 study published in JAMA Pediatrics, showing definitively that masks cause excessive CO2 buildup, on average 6 times and up to 12 times the OSHA limit, causing effects such as headaches, dizziness, fatigue, inability to concentrate or think, flushing, and shortness of breath. While this study focused on children, it's also true that adults, such as staff and visitors, also experience these effects, and you have removed the option of choice from them, despite the fact that a state of emergency no longer exists. In fact, there are many teachers who have expressed privately that they desire mask choice, but the current work environment is so toxic that they fear retribution for merely speaking up. Your vaccine clinic started the first day of school. This gives the impression they are designed to either usurp parental wishes or at the very least catch parents off guard before they realize that they're there. This is not a good way to build trust. Speaking of not building trust, tonight's agenda item regarding the district entering an arrangement with the Department of Health to provide oral health services on campus is a superintendent's committee and not a board committee, which would be subject to sunshine laws and greater transparency. I respectfully request all further interactions with the Department of Health be in a format where there is transparency. Why are school hours and school resources, such as a designated space, being used to provide health services that can easily be obtained elsewhere? Data shows that students are already behind where they traditionally have been due to the upheaval of last year with the COVID changes. Several of you want children masked, yet seem to have no issue with having someone in to go digging around children's mouths. Our children are not wards of the state. We should not be turning our schools into vaccination and fluoridation and dental sealant clinics. Parents can avail themselves of these services at the health department. Let's get back to the basics of teaching language arts, math, science, civics, which our students surely need this year. Social agendas, political platforms, and medical treatments do not belong in our schools. Schools should be neutral, welcoming places for students of all abilities and backgrounds to come learn. Schools should welcome parents, understanding that families have diverse belief systems, and partner with them in teaching children the fundamentals of education. I hope you will bear that in mind as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica Tillman, Belinda Ewan, and Drake Wirtz.
Jessica Tillman from Longwood. I am speaking on behalf of Moms for Liberty, Seminole County. Our organization continues to grow across the nation. We are now in 28 states, 96 counties, and over 40,000 members. Our chapter has over 250 people involved. We are taking back our schools nationwide, one county at a time. The MOU with the health department is concerning. You are wanting to offer dental care to students without parents present. This is a bad idea. Parents should handle this outside of school. There is a health department in this county if people want that support. We don't need a health department on campus. We would also like access to meetings with the health department. 21 days ago, this board voted not to revisit a mask mandate for students before school started, which falls in line with the Parents' Bill of Rights, our governor's executive order, and the Commissioner of Education's orders. So I want to thank the board for that vote. It was the right thing to do. 11 days after that vote and 3 days before school started, the superintendent decided to ignore all of it and implemented a mask mandate requiring children to show their papers in order to opt out, dividing this county even more, following suit behind Orange. When masks were optional, those who wanted to continue masking did not have to opt in to wearing one. Why discriminate against those who choose not to? We have policy 2260, non-discrimination and access to equal education opportunity in place. Why would one population be treated different than another? Why would the superintendent go against what the board just voted on? There is no state of emergency in place, statewide or in the county. What is the point of the board voting on anything if the superintendent finds it in her power to mandate? It has been stated many times by this board, if it's not in the statutes, we don't do it. So I have to ask, where's the statutes that say teachers, staff, and student must wear a face covering? You are listening to the health department who follows the CDC. Why are you following CDC guidelines when they take funding from Pfizer, the very company making this shot? Is that not a conflict of interest? Policy 4129, a body that has financial ties to the company making the COVID shot should not have a say in how people care for themselves. Seminole County Public Schools, the health department, or the CDC has not provided any data to support making anyone or masking anyone to stop viral spread. In fact, the CDC has admitted that they cannot prove masks impact viral spread. It says on the box, does not stop a virus, but some of you continue 19 months into this to push masks and quarantine of healthy people with discriminatory procedures for vaccinated versus unvaccinated. Children are more likely to die from the flu than from COVID, yet we never masked for that. We indeed have an infectious disease policy, policy 8450, that has protocols in place for such times. Why are COVID protocols different from any other infectious disease listed in this policy? We are not Orlando North. Stop trying to orange our Seminole. Many families in this county moved here, 1, for the school district, 2, because they liked Seminole County, the natural choice, and 3, the small community feel. We did not move here to become the next Orlando. Masks were approved by the FDA on April 18, 2020, emergency use authorization only, and cannot legally be mandated. They have also been ruled presumptively unconstitutional, but here we are. The children can opt out, but what about teachers? In the United States of America, we have freedom of choice. I have been contacted by many teachers, administrators, and staff afraid to speak up for choice. We are building a network in every school to make sure every voice is heard. It is not right that teachers and staff are afraid to speak up. More and more will reach out to us. It is completely ridiculous to think if a teacher is also a parent, they can choose to make that healthcare choice for their children, but not smart enough to make healthcare choices for themselves. The first week of school is over. What have we learned? We've learned teachers are being told they're allowed to segregate their classrooms based on mask use. Kindergartners are sitting at lunch crying because they are scared to take off their mask to eat. Healthy students are already being quarantined with no way to keep up with classes. Kids are afraid to opt out because they are being bullied, being called selfish. Since when do healthcare choices make a person selfish? If you are sick, stay home. We need to teach our children about nutrition, exercise, and logic. Help them understand every opportunity to stay healthy, not just one. What infectious disease listed in policy 8450 have we ever masked, distanced, or quarantined healthy people? None, not one, ever. So why COVID? We have tried the masks, distancing, and quarantine. It is time to try something else. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. When I stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, my hand is over my heart. When tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes duty. Thomas Jefferson. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Evening.
I'm Belinda Ewan, Seminole County. I am here with regards to the idea of merging the Florida Health Department to establish clinics at elementary and middle schools to provide dental services. When it comes to our minor children, I am always going to advise you to use extreme caution and wisdom, because if you don't, you could be inviting the most controversial and personal criticism to yourselves and to this county, both your personal legacy and professional legacy. First, We already have beautiful facilities in Seminole County that provide dental services via the health department. They could open up any free services to all parents via those locations. Remember, one thing leads to another. Once you have a Department of Health clinic on campus, what other services will be added in the future? Let me tell you what other services they offer. Vaccinations. Do I need to highlight all the controversy associated right now with the COVID vaccine? Currently, there are 11,000 plus cases, death reported, and many more adverse side effects reported by VAERS of an experimental drug that is not FDA approved. They also offer specialty care. This includes STDs and HIV testing, diagnosis, treatment, and counseling, plus free condoms. Also, they have sexual health and family planning education. They also have an I can't say it, I'm so tired and nervous. I can't even say it. Thank you, tongue twister, department. They conduct disease surveillance and investigate occurrences of infectious diseases. They provide disease control education, consultation, and intervention. They also have a public health preparedness program. This includes medical support to special needs shelters and mass dispensing of antibiotics or vaccinations. This comes directly from their website. This crosses the line. They are our children, and we do not need more government agencies overstepping our constitutional rights as their parents. You don't need to merge for additional services we are capable of utilizing when needed. Parents should be going with your children to healthcare appointments either at private doctors or at the health department. How many stories have got to be told before people realize that molestation is real and it's common? Think of beloved Simone Biles, the greatest of all time. It was a renowned doctor who was found guilty of sexual abuse. The purpose of the school is to teach the fundamentals of reading and writing and arithmetic. We do not need an epidemiology program doing surveillance on our campuses or any disease control intervention or mass vaccinations, which once a clinic is available on school campuses could in turn begin such services. Do you see how this opens Pandora's box? We have parental rights and these students are minors. We refuse to be excluded from their health care, and this is exactly the inroad that would and could circumvent our parental rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Drake, then Selena, then Ray.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Beeman. I thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight. My name is Drake Wirtz. I am a father of 3 young school-aged children. I'm a resident of Altamont Springs. I'm a youth sports coach in baseball in our county. And before this meeting this evening, I was reading a thread. It was about this meeting tonight. And I watched online as parents threw virtual daggers at one another. Even in stating a concern, one parent insulted another parent based on their perceived political ideology. How we got to this point where we don't even support our fellow parents in our community, it's not worth the time to try to understand. But what is worth the time is healing. Parents have the absolute hardest job, especially the mama bears in this room, on this side and up there. Yet each and every single day, they show up. Each event, they show up. Each crisis, they bring their best to every situation. We support each other in this journey. We raise each other up regardless of how we personally feel. We're not supposed to judge each other. Mask or don't mask, that's the parent's choice. You're the experts for your family, I'm the expert for mine. My children will never wear a mask. They'll never be a part of a medical experiment. They'll never take an experimental and harmful vaccine, and we chose a Christian home education. However, I respect the path that other parents feel is best for their children. It's called parental choice, and it was signed into law by our governor. Some things are crystal clear and non-negotiable. Any form of critical racism theory is divisive, and it's not going to be tolerated. Sex education is also for the parents to decide. And we have people in this room who are convicted by God to not participate in some of the teachings that are being propagated. So you need to respect that. We also need to respect everyone. We need to teach kindness, tolerance, empathy, compassion for one another. We need school board members and teachers that are going to remember that it's their job to educate and not indoctrinate. We have some hot topics that quite frankly violate the religious liberties of some of the parents in this room. School cannot contradict the values that are being taught at home. I've had parents that have personally reached out to me, teachers as well. But in particular, the parents, they're wondering if you're going to be making an effort to engage the kids that are stuck at home in e-campus, to make them feel like they're a part of a community. If you're going to address the mental health that's being propped on them by being quarantined. Their parents are wondering if you're going to blindly throw their child into a quarantine room like what's going on at Lake Brantley, or if you're going to start asking children's vaccine status. They're wondering if you're going to start pushing radical sex education. They're wondering how long you're going to be asking these children to show their papers. And they're also wondering when you're going to start talking about something else that's out there. I hear a lot of talk about vaccines this evening, but as of yesterday, Camping World Stadium in Orlando will now serve as a monoclonal antibody treatment site that's open 7 days a week, where people can get treatments like Regeneron, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, therapeutics that are out there where people will not have to violate the religious liberties by taking a vaccine. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you. Selena Westerberg and Ray McClory.
Hello, my name is Selena Westerberg. I'm a senior at Lake Mary High School. I thank the school board for having us here today. I'm here to voice the concerns of so many of my feminine peers relate to. First, the removal of the word cleavage in 3A is appreciated. However, using chest as a replacement is very vague. The Oxford Dictionary defines chest as, quote, the front surface of a person's body between the neck and the abdomen, end quote. This leaves us to question why Section 3A exists at all in the first place. This section states, and I quote, low-cut necklines are prohibited and the cut of garments must not expose undergarments or chest, end quote. This provision is not only ambiguous but also is inequitable towards students due to the wide variety of body types. A shirt may be accepted as school appropriate on a girl like me, while on my larger chested friend, the same shirt would be considered to reveal the chest or too low cut. Furthermore, Section 3B of the dress code prohibits 7 forms of upper garments, all worn most frequently by feminine students. The issue I present here is one of gender discrimination. When our policies target feminine students, those students will be pulled out of class, degraded, and sexualized, while students of other genders continue learning. Additionally, in Florida's heat, it is more than common for students to wear shorts or dresses to school, which, by the way, seem not to distract anybody. In regards to Section 4B, if the buttocks are completely covered at all times and lower garments are secured on the body, why should there be any reason for rules regarding the length of lower garments? The last Section 3A states, garments that are distracting or inappropriate are prohibited, including skin-tight items, end quote. Prohibiting skin-tight items may target feminine students who wear items of dress with fashion trends, such as skinny jeans, leggings, women's fitted tees, and more. Once again, we have provisions in our dress code targeting specific students. Lastly, due to the current COVID-19 pandemic, I'd like to bring some attention to the Seminole County's opt-out policy for facial coverings. It's clear that the county agrees that parents should decide what is best for their individual child. If this is the perspective when it comes to a public health safety issue, then why are parents not the ones allowed to determine what clothing is appropriate for their own child? If this is the perspective, it's only fair to introduce an opt-out policy for the dress code, consistent with the recent decisions of the school board before me. While these may just be words on paper, they have real implications on our students. These concerns are not just limited to those expressed by my peers and I today, but also by the 2,656 signatures on our petition on change.org. I ask you all to consider what mark you would like to leave on this county. Will it be one of gender discriminatory and harmful policies? Or will it be one of equity and inclusion? This is not a trivial complaint. This is a call to action from the students of SCPS, stakeholders in our own right. This is a call to action to remove Sections 3A and 3B from our current dress code policy, and if replaced, to be replaced by language that does not in any way target feminine students or minorities. Thank you again to the Seminole County School Board for letting me speak today and for everything you do.
Thank you.
I'm Ray McClary, 21-year resident of Seminole County. In Florida, a daily average of 54 kids under the age of 18 were admitted to the hospital for COVID between August 1st and August 9th. That is before the school started. Can you imagine what this number is going to be now that children are back in school? And according to WKMG, 16.7% of the children in Seminole County have been opted out from wearing masks. All it takes is one child with COVID to infect other children. The board seriously needs to reconsider its decision and make mask mandating for everyone. Some said that children have too much carbon dioxide or CO2 because of the mask, and others say they're ineffective because the holes in the mask are too big for the viruses. But the CO2 is only 3 atoms, but the virus contains millions of atoms. How is it possible that the CO2 cannot get out of the mask, but that's only 3 atoms, but something of millions of atoms can get through it? If you're looking at the internet, you can always find information that supports whatever your point of view you're looking for. And more than 800 physicians have sent a letter to Governor DeSantis demanding he repeal his executive order for banning school districts from requiring masks. Who are you going to listen to? 800 doctors or politicians? Some say masks are political, but their support crosses party lines. The supporters of masks from the previous administration included the Director of Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Dr. Redfield, Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar, Surgeon General Jerome Adams. And recently on CBS This Morning show, Dr. Adams said, quote, as a physician, as a public health expert, it is deeply troubling that it seems we're letting politics get in the way of protecting our youth. As a father, I am quite frankly think it's unconscionable. Even President Trump on July 20th said, whether you like masks or not, they have an impact, they have an effect, and we need everything we can get. He said, wearing a mask is patriotic. When a child attends a school without a mask, they are not just placing themselves at risk, but they are also placing other children at risk. Remember, most people with COVID have little or no symptoms, so that you don't know you're spreading it. Mask wearing does more to protect those around you than the ones who are wearing it. But the best protection is when both wear a mask. And in closing, I'd like to address the superintendent and the school board. Will you be able to look at the mirror in a few months and know that you did everything possible to protect the children's health and safety? Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes public input. It is 6:37. We'll take a 10-minute break. 7:37, sorry. 10-minute break, recess. Thank you. Thank you. Superintendent, do you have a recommendation on the consent agenda?
Chairman, I recommend that the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Ms. Beeman, would you weigh in on the sealants and give us some history, please?
Absolutely. The dental sealant agreement is a renewal of an agreement that was signed by this board back in 2016. It is essentially 12 of our Title I elementary schools are serviced through this agreement. Thousands of students in the last 5 years have been able to be provided service by the Department of Health at our school after parent consent and authorization is provided to the school. So it's a collaboration that where our most neediest students are able to obtain dental services for those occasions where they otherwise might not be able to.
I can very much appreciate the comments with regard to having folks go to the health department and go to a doctor or clinic, and a lot of these students and families do not have automobiles, so they can't make themselves, they don't have that same opportunity that we have. So thank you. Anything else?
I was just going to say that we also do vision and hearing, and that's been something that I have been doing for, gosh, all the years that I've ever taught. So that's something that's standard, and it's very helpful for us to know if a child has any issues with hearing and or seeing, and if they need to be in the front row, or sometimes that, you know, we overlook situations like that. Even for my own child, I did for my first child.
And just also for the record, none of this is done without parental consent and approval. We recognize your rights there.
Member Calderon.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Superintendent Beeman, but don't we have an ongoing collaborative relationship with the county as a whole? For example, when there's a hurricane, our schools are actually the shelters, you know, and it just, as the health department, I know they have 2 standalone facilities in the county, but again, to make the depth and breadth to offer to all citizens, just as we do the emergency shelters, it's an ongoing, decades-long agreement, but nothing is ever allowed to be taught to a student from an outside entity, be administered to a student, any medical care, any dental care, without parental consent. And we've learned through the years, right, that it's hard to teach a child if they're not physically well, if they haven't eaten for many days, so we try to offer the wraparound services, but it's not funding from the school district, and it's not taking away from what our core business mission is, and that's to educate the child in all of our core academic subjects. So, you know, maybe it might be good, because we're in the education business, to maybe have the Department of Health at some point in time down the line to better explain all of the services that we offer to all citizens in Seminole County. It's not something that we're doing new. It's something that's always been on. Just a suggestion.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Superintendent, do you have a report?
No, the only report is the read-only.
Monthly grants?
Yes.
Thank you. Board members, if you have a committee update or event, which there probably have not been any events. Member Calderon?
The Orlando Science Center Board of Directors met yesterday, and some great news. They got a grant for the Shuttered Venue Operating Grant Fund, so it brings their budget hold to help pay their staff that had to work during their shutdown. Additionally, the Seminole Chamber of Commerce Issues Committee met this past week with a great presentation from County Commissioner Herr on impact fees, and I think that was a great education for our leaders within the business community. And I want to publicly thank the Sikh Society of Central Florida for donating hundreds and hundreds of filled backpacks to our students in need before the start of school. And just a shout out to our team for a great school opening. Thank you for all the efforts you put forward, and thank you families in Seminole County for entrusting your children with us, and thank you for all the input that we get via the emails. As Mrs. Pennick said, we do read every single one. If we miss replying to one, it's because we saw another email chain or, gosh, something would have slipped through the crack, but we read every one and appreciate it.
Thank you. Member Sanchez.
First, thank you so much to our wonderful cabinet and departments for everything that you do day in and day out. You're our heroes and do so much for our students, faculty, and we really, truly appreciate everything. Our work session was fabulous and very informative today. We have not met for our Central Florida School Board Coalition. We start next month. Central Florida Zoo, we had our annual meeting and our board meeting. We had a great amount of people that showed up, and I highly suggest taking your family to the zoo and either get a pass or even do some of the virtual field trips that they have. I met quite a few of the educators there and everything like that, and I was actually blown away with all the different programs that they offer. And we're doing great financially right now, and the train is almost up and running for that part, the new one. But, you know, there's over 116 acres and over 400 animals that would love to see you and for you to learn about and for your children to go to, or even in the classroom. They do follow our curriculum, and everything does align with it. They also have night camps and day camps as well. And coming up is Brews Around the Zoo, and of course that's 21 and older, and that is September 18th and 19th. So go on to the centralfloridazoo.org page. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Krause?
I too would like to thank the staff. A phenomenal opening. Way to go, team. A special thanks, shout out to Amy Elwood, who is over the top involved in all of our reopening safely. So thank you, Amy. I attended the Business Advisory Board meeting. We met in small groups to present later this year. And we were able to introduce Mr. Wilski as the new cabinet representative. So thank you for joining us. And I need to thank my fellow board member for attending the Children's Cabinet on my behalf. I was in the hospital with my dad and wasn't able to connect. So I'll have an update after they send the minutes to provide. So thank you all. One just quick final thing. Please know, all of us, all of you, we're watching the numbers, we're watching the data, we're watching how we can continue to deliver the safest education for all children. And we hear you. Thank you for your emails. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Vice Chair Pinnock?
Just want to give you an update. I have not had any committee meetings, but an update on the interlocal agreement process. So far, Longwood, Oviedo, Seminole County BOCC, and SCPS have all approved the ILA. Lake Mary, it goes in front of them on Thursday. Monday, Sanford and Castleberry have it on their agenda. And in September, Winter Springs and Altamont have it on their agenda. So we're looking at probably the latter part of September when we will have it finalized. I also want to say thank you to the foundation for Tools for Seminole Schools, for the opportunity for our teachers to get out there and get much needed supplies for their classrooms. In addition to all the public comment, very thankful that we get the public comment. And I should have said this earlier, but I do want to make a comment. Sometimes we get tagged on posts on social media, and please know that we may see them, but we won't comment. And that's because we don't want to violate sunshine. Once we put our comments out there, it allows our other board members to see our opinion, to see how we may or may not vote. So we do not comment on social media posts. we don't see all social media posts. So if you intend for us to know something, please reach out to us in an email, a phone call. We don't sit and spend all of our time on social media, and would rather have you point something out to us via an email communication rather than on social media, because I just don't think that's a productive way of getting communications to us. Thank you to all of you guys. As a mother, my kids are so happy to be back in school. They won't admit it because they're middle school and high schoolers, but they love it. Their bus rides have been randomly funny, late, early, full, not full, but they're working and respectful. And thank you for all of the teachers, the staff, all of administrators for what you do every day.
Thank you. I want to tag on to your comments about social media and include cell phones. I can only speak for myself on the cell phone, but it's my personal phone. My social media page is my personal page, even though it may say I am a school board member. Try, along with losing your freedoms, if your devices are confiscated for public record, try going without your phone for 6 hours or without your laptop for 6 hours, and you keep reaching for it. And we've had that a few times, you know. It's not uncomfortable, it's just weird. But, you know, I'd prefer not to give it up, but we do. So that's another reason I, along with you, and I think most of us don't comment on that way. So, summer graduation at Seminole High School. I know it happened after our last board meeting, or right before our last board meeting, but it got late. We didn't talk about that, and thank you to Seminole High School for hosting it. It was great to see those folks who didn't make it at the end of the school year still be able to graduate and be celebrated. And there were, I think, a couple hundred kids. So we're close, but it was a wonderful celebration. I serve on Seminole County Human Trafficking Task Force, and we had a web meeting the other day. They just offered to distribute posters if we need any at our schools, so they're connected to Dr. Wysong. And they had some kind of a gathering in Orlando recently, and they brought in all different police agencies. It's local and MBI and FBI and you name it, and a bunch of nonprofits. And they just went door to door with photographs of young people. They found 10 young people who were missing and returned them to their families. One short event. Yeah, it really gives you chills. So, and today we hosted mayors and managers here at the ESC, and we had our physics buses, and they were pretty impressed and enjoyed playing with the different educational resources that were there. So that was a great thing. Ms. Cole Palmer, you have a request, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a request. At this time, I'm requesting an executive session on a pending litigation matter. It is in the matter of Paul Mejias versus the School Board of Seminole County, case number 2020 CA 001105, and I'm requesting that it be scheduled on September 7th, 2021.
Thank you. Ms. Moramus, have you already marked our calendars? Thank you. 9:30 in the morning? Okay, thank you. Anything else, Superintendent?
No, I don't.
Okay, with no further business, this meeting is adjourned.